Welcome, 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 welcome. Hi, Narcissa. Hey, Courtney. All right. Thank y'all for joining us. Hi,
Hello, all.
Anisha. Welcome. Yes, yes, yes. So happy to see y'all. All right. Awesome. We're good. Well, it's time to welcome everyone and get this conversation started. So, this is On Being Ourselves, live conversations on healing, acceptance, and bring our uniqueness into the world. This is a 4-day event for now, and I'm super excited to be getting started on this Monday with my little brother. I'm gonna call him my little brother, Nadir Sharad. I don't know how
Hey,
you feel about
everybody.
that, Nadir.
It's all good. Yeah.
Cool. So, you know, I will say a little bit about what this is and what my inspiration was for these conversations. Introduce myself, and then Nadir, have you introduce yourself. So, on being ourselves, really was inspired by my own journey of trying to be myself and trying to be okay with that and be out here in the world and not be against myself, honestly. Wading through, the journeys that we find ourselves on, definitely where it comes to fear, where it comes to judgment, where it comes to people pleasing, right? And walking that journey of trying to be free, to be myself, walking that journey of hoping that everyone else will accept me. Um, of course, coming into the process of healing to accept myself, right? Um, Trusting myself and living my own uniqueness in the world, my own work in the world, my own self in the world, and taking back that power, right, to do that. So we know there are like all kinds of journeys and all kinds of experiences that happen in that process. But I was inspired to just create a series of conversations or just a place where we all could kind of land and
Mm.
be in conversation with each other around that struggle, those processes, those healing processes, and kind of where we find ourselves now and how it is that we venture to do such a thing, to be our full selves in our power and in full trust of all that is, um, for us to be able to have a place to just let it all out and let it loose and be real about it,
Yeah.
because I think oftentimes we don't find many safe spaces to do that. And I think that being honest and just transparent and sharing in the connection around what those experiences are like, can be a natural springboard for us, like being out here, you know what I'm saying, like really doing our thing in the world and really kind of owning our power and our offering to the world, what we came here to do, you know what I'm saying. So now you good.
I'm sorry, somebody in the
It's all
background trying to
good.
get my attention.
Okay, no problem, no
But
problem.
I am present and I'm here listening.
No
So
worries. If you want to go deal with that, I can talk a little bit about something else really quick.
okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So my name is Ife. If you don't know me, I'm a coach. I'm a healer. I'm a catalyst for healing and transformation for people of African descent. I also fashion myself as a creative, which is kind of a new thing for me. Um, so my jam is all about helping people trust their feelings, trust their journey, and trust themselves so that they can live fully and live their offering into the world. As you might guess, that has been exactly my own journey, which is, of course, part of how I've landed at um, wanting to help other folks with such a thing. And I do so with joy and zeal because I know how it is. And I continue to walk this path every day, all the time. It doesn't end, right? So that's me. In many ways, these conversations are not only, meant to be a place for us all to kind of find home, find ourselves, and feel encouraged to to live fully in ourselves. It is also a place where I am doing that in action, right? I'm doing that publicly. I'm ready to birth my own self further and higher and deeper into the world, so to speak. So I'm super happy to be doing this, and I'm super happy to be here. I want to check these comments. Hello. Hi, Travis. Thank you for joining us. If you're here, please say something in the comments. Drop a wave. If you're here for the replay, let us know for that. If there are any questions, comments, whatever, yeses, we're here for all of that. And if there's anything, any questions or anything to reply to in the replay, or as you watch the replay, we'll definitely come back and do that. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the love. Hello, Carlette. Welcome. Super happy that we're doing this. Okay, so Nadir, I want to say a little bit about how I know you and why I wanted to do this with you.
Okay.
So, Nadir is, as I said, like a little brother to me, but um, something that we have in common, and something that I think really had me want to have him on for this journey of conversations is that we both grew up in the same or similar um, community in Atlanta. So we both grew up in this African centered community of Atlanta. Hey, Mama Darrow. Hey, Jennifer. Welcome. And so that's both how I know him and some of the experiences that we share. So um, Nadir went to my parents' school. I've been Nadir's teacher. Um, and just seeing his journey from, I don't know, I feel like when I met you, you were in like seventh grade. I could be wrong. Um, but something that we have shared is, I think, just the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the struggles of growing up in such a community where um, there are high expectations and some pretty solidified ideas about what's acceptable and what's not, right? About
Mhm.
what's okay and what's not, about what gets you praise and what gets you kicked out. So, when it comes to creating beyond fear, I mean, I think you're perfect, right? One, because you've been a creator as long as I've ever known you. Um, and you've also had these experiences of struggling with acceptance, right? From other
Mhm.
folks, within yourself, and all the things. So I'm happy to call Nadir a friend as well. Not just my little brother, but a creator that I admire in his own right, in your own right, bro.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm super excited to jump into this conversation. So please introduce yourself. Tell the folks who's Nadir, who's this guy.
All right. Thank you, Ife.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation. My name is Nadir, and I also go by Esugbola. That's kind of what the creative name that I kind of decided on. And I'm 21 years old, native of Atlanta, and currently I'm in college. I'm a rising senior at Prescott College in Arizona, and I'm studying regenerative ecological design. And I think one of the biggest things why I'm excited to have this conversation is really delving into the deepness of creativity, what that is, and what creation is, and then also its relationship with fear and emotions. Period. And
Mm,
um, just the multitude of ways we can take this conversation and exploring all different types of avenues.
mm,
And I think that's like kind of the heart of who I am and who I'm becoming. Also, it's just
Mm,
being able to explore a lot of different avenues and really harvesting the fruits from all those avenues, no matter how disparate they may seem. Um, just being able to, cultivate a lot of goodness and light and positivity, no matter where I end up and where I take myself.
mm, love it. Nadir so deep, y'all. Um, so cool. I'm super excited to jump in. I want to say just on the outset, um, if there's any confusion about what this is not like an expert conversation. This is not a how-to conversation. This is not us showing up to instruct anyone on anything. These conversations are intended for us to find ourselves in these conversations, both myself and Nadir, whoever I'm talking to for the day, and all of us together. So, it's really intended to be a safe space for us to explore. So I just want to throw that out there real quick, and I'm excited for us to just meander through the hallways of of the walls of this conversation, so to speak. So, I know I want to talk about creativity, like what is creating, right? I know you want to talk about that too. Um, Fear, like how we experience fear, and then what is creating beyond fear, if there is such a thing, right? Like what are the processes? What has been our journey? What is our journey? And I love that you said who you are becoming,
Mm.
because you're a relatively young man, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy for us to imagine like this 21-year-old is becoming someone, right?
Mm. Hmm.
And the thing is we are all always becoming. It's a facade, this thing we put on, I think, young kids like, hi, hello there, Feeney, welcome. Hi, Shirley, welcome. Thank y'all for being here. Um, yeah, we have this idea about like as you're a child, you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, and then you know what you want to be when you grow up, and then you become that, and then like the rest of life, the path is laid for you, right?
For sure.
And that certainly hasn't been my path. And I'm not. I was gonna say that's BS, but I'm gonna speak for myself and say that hasn't been my path. Um, but I think regardless of what our paths have been, we are constantly in creation of ourselves. We are
Mm.
constantly in the finding of ourselves.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and so I'm glad that you brought that in just to start. So yeah, like let's start with creation, creating, creativeness. Like, what is that even to you?
Ah.
Which is like such a huge thing, right?
Yeah, it is. Open up the biggest can of worms first. Um, let's see, creating. I think more than anything, it's a continual process, just like we're talking about life being a continual process. And the reason why I'm thinking about it is in that way is because as I've studied creators and what they've created, even like the product of that creation, it's always been about the journey to the journey of creating
Mm,
instead of just like the product
mm-hmm,
or just the goal of what we're trying to create,
mm-hmm,
and how that process is spiritual. It can be also very mundane, and then how also that process is very cathartic and just emotional, and it just brings up a lot and a lot of different things for different people,
mm,
and especially depending on what you're creating. And I want to think about what's coming up right now, I should say, is when I was a teenager, I was thinking about art and like, what is art? I was especially thinking about this as I was going to pick my college, because I didn't want to be a starving artist, like this narrative of starving artists, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And as I was thinking about art and meditating and trying to get different words from elders and just whoever, um, I came to the conclusion that like art is whatever we're creating. It is like this, whatever you put your passion into, whatever you put your energy into to kind of create something that you would want to see. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like it gives the essence of kind of where you are in that moment. It's not of
Yeah, yeah.
it's not this like how we think of art as in terms of like this fine art or this nice painting that we see or something like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not that alone isn't just art, but this
Right.
like they even call martial arts a form of art because
Hmm.
you put intention, you are refining how you're doing something over and over to
Mm.
bring about something that you kind of see in your mind's eye, or you just feel that is not necessarily being able to be expressed just up in here. It needs to come out of you in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I've been thinking about creation for a very long time up until now, is just this. I kind of just said it, but the having a picture in your mind or having this feeling, and this is how it is for me too, and really needing to express that in some form of way, and
Yeah.
whatever medium that comes out to be. I think that's the whole creative process. That's creating, just kind of taking that part of you or whatever is bubbling up and kind of letting it come out in some way, in some form.
Yes. I told you he was deep, y'all. We got wows in the comments. We got gas faces. And like I think what I love the most about that is you pointing to the fact that creating creating as a process as opposed to being about the product,
Yeah.
right? Like I think in this capitalist society, um, in this place, in this culture where we are overrun, um, and frankly, yeah, just I mean, capitalism is the thing that's coming loudly for me.
Mm,
We are so, and we have been conditioned so much to the product, right?
yeah.
It's literally like what capitalism is about, right? And industrialization and such, right?
Yeah.
Um, the product is what's important. What's going on with the person, um, is not really, in the equation. And
Yeah.
so I think for so many of us, the way that we have come to understand how we can achieve value in the eyes of someone else, in the eyes of society, is especially, when we're talking about creating, is through being um through our product being approved of.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I do.
Like, and we've lost, many of us have lost, or we haven't fully given into, we haven't fully committed to creating for creation's sake. Or even I want to say beyond creating for creation's sake, because it's not arbitrary. As you said, it is this process of having something bubble up in you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's I'm reminded of this Sweet Honey in the Rock song
Mm,
based on this poem by Khalil Gibran. Um, and I think it's called On Children. It's about children and how they don't belong to their parents, right? But one of the lines is, your children are not your children. They are the sons and the daughters of life's longing for itself, right? So that's a whole thing in and of itself, right? But
yeah.
but the reason I pulled that out, the reason that occurred to me is I believe that our inclinations, that bubble up inside of us, they are that is life longing for itself. Do you know what I'm saying? It's life
Okay.
longing
Okay.
to extend into creation. It's life longing to go
Yes.
from a
Yes.
thought or idea or just a curiosity
Mm-hmm.
to its evolution, right? So I think the same inclination that we have as I don't know, humans, or you might even say the cycle of creation beyond us has, right, that manifests through us in terms of life longing for itself,
Mm-hmm.
we have flowing through us also at all times, right? Which is, yeah, we getting hella deep.
Exactly. As I'm like, okay, okay.
Because at this point, I'm like, I feel like we're talking about levels of creation, right? And
Right.
essentially that the same energies that create creation, that are creation, flow through us
Yeah.
and yearn to create, right? So that's deep. That's dope. I'm super, super, super
Wow.
into yeah, just centering creating creativeness, creation, art, even in in the process, in the moment. And you talked about the moment. I wrote that down. The moment and the movement, right, as opposed to the product. Like
Hmm.
what you were saying about martial arts makes me
Yeah.
think about movement. It is a process. It's a coming into being. It's a birthing and a rebirthing and a rebirthing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, we just jumped in. We just jumped in. Okay.
Straight into the deep end.
You know?
No
Come on,
forking.
spirit, spirit, look. Woo, we're just what? Conduits, life longing for itself. All right. um, yeah. How do you or when do you feel like you're flowing with that,
Mm.
the process of creation? And when do you feel like you aren't? Right? Like what are those spaces like for you?
Okay. Ooh. So I think this is very like heavy on my heart right now, just answering
Mm,
that question for myself.
okay.
Um, because I think it's a lot to do with your environment, the environment inside and the environment outside.
Mm,
And
okay.
I say that because the our circumstances, are, how we experience life, where we are, wherever we are, what we're doing, um, outside of our homes, even inside our homes, can kind of stifle that process and then also really boost it, I think.
Mm,
And it can also create a lot of balance too. And I think kind of what we've been talking about, these creative forces that are so multi-layered in the
mm,
universe.
yeah.
um they say like life doesn't, there's nothing in life kind of happens willy-nilly. Uh
Mm-hmm.
there's no mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there are some things that are just like unexpected to us, and
Okay.
to each individual. Like you didn't necessarily want something to happen. And I'm saying all this because I think when the environment places you, when we find ourselves in different circumstances that can be adverse or good for this creative process,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's up to us to really step up and be able to do something, to either choose to, well, okay, that's it, to choose. That's what I'm really getting at. Choose whether if we want to put this energy, our energy, towards creation, or put it towards
Oh.
something that is more, I don't know, kind of detrimental to ourselves, like adding on to the detriment instead of creating. And
Mm-hmm.
what I paused for a second because another word that just came up and that I really like using is transmutation.
Mm.
And I was introduced to this word through an anime, through a Japanese cartoon.
Okay.
And and it was just along the lines of alchemy and things. And like magic and alchemy and things kind of get people sweep over it. They don't really like consider these things. Well, I would say a lot of
Real.
people, yeah, they don't really consider these things real. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying necessarily that I'm over here turning dust into gold or sand into
Right.
gold, whatever the
Right.
equation is.
Yeah.
But if we think about it in our Black colloquial language and our way that we use
Mm.
metaphors and things,
Okay.
um, this idea of turning dust or something worthless into gold, I think comes into play here with the creative process, because your circumstances can be terrible, and at the same time there is opportunity, there is that possibility for us
Mm-hmm.
to create, to
Mm-hmm.
manifest something that we will want, that we do want to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the beauty of it, because
Yeah.
you do have this opportunity to add to the equation something that will make your reality somewhere that you want to live. And not to say that it's better, but it's better for you or for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Does that all make sense?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I'm thinking, yeah, we got some folks filling you in the comments.
Nice.
Um, it reminds me of the visual of planting a seed,
Mm.
right? How folks talk about like planting a seed in darkness.
Mm.
And when the seed is planted, like it's totally dark in there. Like, so, if we are to kind of think about it from our perspective, like, where am I at? Right? I don't know this place. I don't know how to navigate this situation. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I expected.
Yeah.
Who did this to me?
Exactly.
Right? How did I get here? What is going on?
Hmm.
Um, and so I think the metaphor of like the seed planted in darkness seeks to kind of create this to show us that, yeah, a lot of times the manifestation that you're looking for, that you're expecting, and the alignment and the good feelings and everything flowing and you being, super bloomed out, starts with darkness.
Mm.
And that I think, to your point, to what some of what I heard you say, it doesn't have to be bad. That darkness doesn't have to be experienced as horrible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, it can be disorienting, and I'm speaking certainly from my experience. It can be disorienting. It certainly can be uncomfortable, and I think it's meant to be uncomfortable. At the same time, we don't have to go against it. We don't have to go against the processes that are trying to unfold within
Mm.
our life
Yep.
to have us evolve, right, to our next level of creation, both ourselves being created and being able to create further what it is that we came here to create, right?
For
And the
sure.
life that we want.
For
I'm
sure.
reminded, and I want to greet my elders, Alafia, Eyafolayo. My godmother is in the place. Aboru Aboye Aboshishe. And I'm reminded of something that another one of my elders, Gay Fini, who's on, um, talks about, and that I live by, which is, a lot of times we have this perspective of things are happening to us,
Yeah.
and actually
Oof.
things are always happening for us. They're
Glad that you brought that
always
in.
happening for us, right? So, yeah. Were you about to say something? You sound like you got sparked.
No, I was just glad that you brought that in, because I think that's something I need to be reminded of a lot. And I really like that idea of switching the paradigm of, or the perspective of things happening for us instead of to us. And like I said, I think that's that element that you can add in that kind of changes your
Perspective.
yeah, your perspective, your
Mm-hmm.
ability to create something out of,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, like your ability to harness something from that process, or from the darkness, from
Yeah.
the whatever it is that we're experiencing that, feels negative at first, or feels uncomfortable, what have you.
Yep.
Um, wow, I'm liking this. I want to read a few comments.
Ooh,
Um,
comment.
Yo, mama Adero Prescott is saying yes on that alchemy. The energy flowing through us creates so much more than what we can imagine. Oshun Iname is saying Ashe, look, the darkness doesn't have to be bad or negative. Sakia Moon saying Ashe, sis, evolve. Yes, always happening for us. So yeah. Dang, and just like that, I think I lost my point. So that happens all the time, and I just trust that it be spirit. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Here for the for us versus to us. Yeah, that's a whole paradigm shift. I tell you, once I started, once I committed to that belief that everything is always happening for me. Like, not
Mm.
just when it's cute or when it's convenient or when I need a breakthrough, but like literally always. Everything shifted for me because, as you said, the way that I experienced the experience shifted, right?
Yeah.
Instead of asking why and trying to figure it all out. I used to try to figure it all out. Why is this happening for me? Kind of what am I doing wrong? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I'm
Okay.
wondering too, like, because I have my experience, but I'm wondering this is true for you too, like
Mm,
just your thought process, like
okay.
what happened there, like when you
Mm,
switched over and you fully believed in that.
wow. Um, so it was actually right at, no, I guess it must have been before. It must have been right before uh what I've come to call the Great Awakening. My Great Awakening. I think it's hilarious because it's like everybody's Great Awakening. No, it was mine. My Great
Hmm.
Awakening. Um, you know, aka what I used to call when my life fell apart, right? Which was when I underwent some spiritual elevation, some
Okay.
spiritual commitment, and like my long-term relationship and engagement fell
Mm.
apart.
Mm.
Um, I had decided to leave my job previously, just previously, to kind of like try to be in alignment. But then that ended up having me jobless, manless. The man had the job, right? Like, um, you know, not having a place to live, like all the things, right? Kind
For
of
sure.
rock bottom. Um, and so I believed in this before this occurred, and I think I was looking for ways to activate it in my life. It just felt like the shift that I needed. And then when this happened, my Great Awakening happened, which at that point didn't quite feel like the Great Awakening. It just felt like rock bottom. Um, it was like the ultimate opportunity to put it into ultimate practice, to commit, and as you say, like to shift the way that I experienced this. It was kind of like, all right, I could do this the way I've always done it. And
Mm.
sure enough, Spirit told me directly, you can do this the way you've always done it, right? Don't do that. Like essentially like step into who you have become,
Okay.
and and live the live what is coming towards you from this new place or this new person you have evolved to being, right?
Okay.
And so, it was like, I don't know how this gonna work. I ain't got no place to stay. All the things. But it became unconditional trust
Mm.
is what, yeah, it evolved into for me. And what I just, and beyond these things what that I've said, um, it was a knowing on some level. There was a knowing within me that, first of all, literally all these things were happening for me,
For sure.
right? Um, and if I trusted that, if I knew that, then I had to live like that, you know?
Yeah.
And there's something about me. I mean, I don't know if most people are like this, but I know about myself. Once I kind of believe a thing or I take something on as a belief, a philosophy, I feel the need to integrate it throughout the whole of my life. And I just said, that's it. We on some unconditional trust, and part of the thing that made it that continues to reinforce it as I live my life is, and I think this happens for most of us. Most of us, we live through unexpected and unwanted experiences, and it's really painful. It's really hard. Um, of course, it's harder if we resist it. But anyway, it's really painful, really hard, and sure enough, though, after some time, after some transformation, well, first of all, we undergo transformation. And usually we come out on the other side being thankful for that experience. Usually we come out on the other side feeling grateful, feeling transformed, feeling at the very least okay.
Yeah.
And so, and that had always been my experience, right? Breakups, um, etc. Anything that felt like I wasn't going to be able to surmount it as I was going through it, sure enough, went through it, was like, wow, I surmounted that. Look who I am. Look what life
Right.
came to give me. Look at the lessons I've learned. Look at the person I am now. So for me, it was like, if I know that happened, then why not have that same trust on the front end and just save
True.
myself a whole lot of agony. Right?
Right.
just know, even when I don't know, even when I can't see,
Mm,
that this is going to become such an experience. Why? Because everything is always happening for me. I will also say that having a relationship, a closer relationship for me with spirit, what I call spirit, what many of us know, as many different names, energies, through different doctrines, whatever.
mm,
Um, but having that relationship and therefore feeling a sense of knowing that these forces, ancestors, etc., um, are constantly working in my life and for my life means that I'd be like, you know what? I don't know what's going on, but I know it's happening for my good. So, and I one thing I don't want to act like because I have that ability or that I don't know, that pattern now, that everything is like a walk in the park. Right? Like,
Good, it ain't.
absolutely not. Canceled. No, at all. Like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm like, oh, unexpected, unwanted, no problem. Right? Like, not at all. It just, I mean, shoot, sometimes it's really, really, um,
Over here crying like, ah.
man, crying. And I'm the crying queen, okay? Um, yeah, so it can be dark, right? So
Yeah.
as with the seed in the soil, it can be all those things. And typically what it means is that I have just more peace, more trust that's constantly growing with each experience
Okay.
in the moment of that pain. It's like the trust carries me through, right? And yeah, it's a trust that there's something here for me. There's something, and usually the more uncomfortable or painful the experience, in my experience, um, the bigger the breakthrough, the bigger the lesson, the bigger the transformation. And
Mm,
I don't want to, I don't, I hesitate to make a connection between like pain and healing or pain and transformation, because I think many of us have that association in a way that's not necessarily healthy, or has us putting ourselves through things or feeling like we just gotta go through pain in order to change.
for sure.
Um,
But
that being, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I like you bringing up that point too, because it is an association I think about. But then I also think about how pain could take on many different forms.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like
it
it doesn't always look like really deep, visceral, screaming at the top of my lungs type of pain.
is. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just looks like, oh my god, I don't know what word to use in to make this sentence make sense. You know what I mean?
I
It's
feel you. No, I like that. The
it's an
levels, right?
exchange. Hmm.
Right. I think the what's coming to me as you say that is like the levels of discomfort that we experience in our
Yeah.
lives, in our everyday lives, coming and going, and that most of us have very little tolerance for any of them, right? Like the small ones and the large ones, right?
Yeah.
The the frustrations or the whatever life upheavals. Um, we seem to have this idea on some level, um, that like if things are not easy, that they're supposed to be easy. Like they're supposed to have been
Mm,
easy, and
mm,
I'm struggling because there something's wrong, right?
yeah.
And so we have all of this energy and feedback that we give ourselves around like I'm wrong, or I'm doing something wrong, or I'm the one wrong, because if I wasn't wrong, then things would be happening easily, or they would be happening the way I envisioned, or they would be happening the way that I want. And like
Mm,
whole time, boo, who said that was supposed to be your life? Like who said that, I mean, I think about this sometimes, like, where do we get this idea that we weren't supposed to go through these dark nights?
yeah.
We are not supposed, like, this is transformation. This is birth, death, rebirth, period. We are creation. We go through cycles of creation. And I think we experience so much pain because we don't know that, and um we haven't aligned with that. We don't have, for the most part, cultures, and we don't live inside of a culture that honors the cycles of creation,
Yeah.
period, let alone the cycles of creation within us, and does
Right.
not recognize that the two are linked, right? So, I mean, that's something that I'm super passionate about at this point. One, because it just freed me, right? Like understanding, oh, wow, cycles, birth, death, rebirth, spring, summer, fall, winter, birth,
Mm-hmm.
death, rebirth. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and we could go to any number of levels and schools of thought about, how we interpret these things and these cycles. But bottom line, there are cycles. And I know I suffered so much because I wanted to be able to fit myself into basically a capitalist framework, which says
Mm-hmm.
that you should produce, create, whatever, feel the
Get
same
that
all
money.
the time. You know what I'm saying? Like you should be at the place where you can basically produce the same level all the time. And so, that integrating that within myself absolutely freed me. And I think that it's going to be more and more so called for as like we look for ways to free ourselves from the ways of being in our American culture, I'll say, in this American society, that binds us, right? That doesn't honor those ebbs and those flows,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, lot to chew on there.
I know, right? The depth, the depth. Um, okay, so I think I want to shift the conversation to fear since we're
Okay.
talking about creating and fear and whatnot. Um, let's see. I wrote this question down and it's nowhere, of course, but I
Hey,
think it would. Hmm?
I just got a question the
Yeah,
if the live is being recorded.
yeah. So
Okay, cool.
it's since it's live on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna the replay will be there and like we can download it and share it and that kind of thing.
Dope. All
Cool, cool.
right.
um, where do you feel, or when or where do you feel restricted or bound by the judgment of others or
Mm.
the fear of judgment of others
Mm.
in general,
Oof.
and maybe where it comes into play in terms of creating in your creative process, however that
Mm.
flows.
Okay. I think I want to start off with just like what I create and what I'm interested in creating in the future. And right now I'm mainly a musician, and that's like where I put most of my creative energy. And I also am very interested in film and photography and really expanding in those areas and combining those two disciplines of
Mm,
videography and music,
okay.
and the levels and depths that we could take that. But anyways,
Mm,
I
thank you for sharing.
I when I'm creating music, when I'm songwriting, when I'm singing, when I'm performing, uh, the things that come up are: am I moving the right way? Am I
Mm.
hitting the note? Am I does my voice sound nice? Do these people even understand harmony? Or like
We are not equipped to understand your artistry, my friend.
right. And that's when it starts getting crazy up here, when I start changing my perspective and being like, hold up, I'm not the problem, they the problem, all this type of stuff. But then I have to really like take a deep breath and center myself in this idea of whatever is coming out, and however I feel in this moment, I can put that into what I'm doing. Okay, that just brought up another thing too. Sorry if I'm like just moving from boom boom
No,
boom boom.
you're fine. Before you jump into that, I want
Mhm.
to just interrupt really quick because I want to invite everybody who's watching the live stream and also the replay to actually answer this question yourselves. We're doing, we want this to be as communal as possible in terms of having everybody involved in the conversation, not just watching our conversation, right? And so, going to be offering questions every day for you all to jump in and answer for yourself. So I would love if you all feel comfortable. who are watching to share, or even just share it for yourself or become aware of it yourself. Like when or where do you feel stifled, restricted, bound to the judgment of others or your fear of the judgment of others? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Nadir. Please continue.
Yeah, I think that when I'm creating, when when I'm trying to do something that is creative, I do think about other people because a lot of what I want to produce is for others.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
I find that I think about it sometimes of just coming through me and me being able to put
mhm.
my little da 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 on it, my special whatever it is,
Mm.
my essence into it. And so it's not necessarily something that I really consider me.
Okay.
However, on the flip side, I do consider it a part of me or just some expression of me or just a reflection of who I am and what's going on inside of my heart and my mind and my
Yeah.
soul. And so a lot of it, this judgment, this bound, what you're talking about of this fear of other people
Mhm.
and what they might think or what they might feel
Yeah.
about the creating,
Mhm.
I think it was a lot stronger when I was younger because I didn't know how to do a lot of things and I didn't have the language to describe how I felt. And I also didn't really feel as if there were people that wanted
Mm.
to listen or to have
Mhm.
um anything to do with what I was creating.
Mm.
And so where that took me was I got a lot of I got a lot of unconscious reminders of I say reminder, but I'll clarify later. But reminders of who I am and what I'm capable of.
Mm. I
And
see.
the reason why I say reminders is because I believed at some point, right? Like I had this urge to do it. I had an impulse to create. And then at some level in my childhood, I got a message that maybe you shouldn't do that. But
Mm.
it wasn't something that I decided that I said, yes, I no longer really have an interest in doing this. I want to move on to something else. It was more of, oh my God, this person or myself or just something is like really trying to beat down this spirit of of
Uh,
creation inside of me. And that would look in multiple different ways, like definitely bullying in middle school,
mm.
but
Mhm.
and also just like asking for people's thoughts on something and
Mhm.
not really getting the critique or the level of depth of response that you want.
Engagement. Yeah.
Hmm. And and so what that moved me towards was people really telling me like mentors, and thank God for the people that ancestors send and that
Mm.
the
I
universe
see.
sends to talk to us, because I really got a lot of unconscious messages to that said, Nadir, like, step up, believe in yourself, give yourself that permission to create, because
Mm.
no one else is really ever going to be able to do that for you. And
Woo!
and,
Preach it. Go ahead.
and these are not my words, because these are things that, like I said, these are unconscious messages that really had to be told to me so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when that feeling of judgment or that fear of judgment like still comes up to this day, it's a lot smaller than it was. And then also I have a different relationship with it, because it's no
Mhm.
longer really about, yes, this creation is for people, it is for a purpose, I do have intentions behind it to help the community, right? And
Mhm.
at the same time, it's not it's not up to other people to approve what I'm giving out,
Mhm.
like I
Yes,
went
Lord.
I went through this process of creation. I kind of did it so that I would be able to offer up something. And if you don't like it, it's not my problem to really be able to say, "Oh, let me tweak this, let me tweak that," because that's where I think we get really that's where fear takes
Yes.
over the creative process, when we're
Mm.
always looking for that person over our shoulder who's going to be like, "Oh no, maybe put A and B or something like that." You
Mhm.
know?
Ooh. Wow. Yes. Yes. Were you done?
Kind of I just want to mention one more thing.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna take it to
We're gonna
another,
take it to the next level.
but it's kind of deal with me on the It's more of like ideas and just
Okay.
So in our, previously in some of our conversations, Ife, we've been talking about just like these wheels um
Mm,
that are constantly around us. And I say wheels because I'm thinking about circles and the
okay.
cyclical nature of things.
Mhm.
And even chakras kind of like show this wheel system inside of our bodies.
Mhm.
I'm not completely versed in metaphysical body things, but I with the things I
Sure.
do know, this kind of helped me to connect the dots.
Okay.
So we already talking about spring, summer, winter, and fall,
Yeah.
and the cycles of life and death, and
Right.
how that's related to creation, and then
Mm,
how we have this inner creation thing going on within us.
mhm.
And I think that there's this kind of figure eight, this wheel moving thing that's happening between all of us and the universe and the earth, and this creative thing that's out here outside of us, outside of our bodies.
Mhm.
And when fear pops up, I think it has a very special element to it,
Mhm.
because fear can really spark creativity in terms of if we think about it in the right way, right?
Okay.
Because fear doesn't always have to be this thing that's like, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
It can really inform us. It can really inform us
Yeah.
on what to do and like what all
Yes.
needs attention, especially
Mhm.
we know this because of fam, because that's
Yes.
that's messengers.
Yes.
But yeah, like when we have that bubbling up of creativity in us, and then an added thing of, oh my god, what are people going to think if I do this?
Mhm.
It really creates this, I think, dichotomy in our and how we've been trained to think in terms of,
Mhm.
do I serve what people want from me, or
Mhm.
do I give what is coming up out of me? And
Mhm.
so instead of thinking about these two separate things, what how can we serve what we think people need, but then also really make sure that we are staying true to what came up, what was the original essence of what we were creating. I really hope that made sense. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Super deep. Woo! Yeah, there's so many points. Like la la la. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I think I'm just letting that wash real quick, actually.
Yeah, let's back.
No, it was beautiful. It was beautiful there. You touched on so many layers. I'm like, which layer wants to come out of me? um, I love what you said about giving yourself permission to create, because no one else is going to do it for you, or
Mhm.
kind of like no one else can do it for you.
Yeah.
um I agree that I think the most of what's happening when we feel stifled in terms of creating, and this has certainly been my experience, is we are still, or we are, for whatever reason, attached to we are attached to approval outside of ourselves.
Mm.
We are attached to approval in general, right? And so many of us are, for
Yeah.
so many reasons. Um, and I know it was a huge thing for me. Someone who has sought approval all my life, right? Externally, right? That just was a survival pattern for me. People pleasing, seeking approval, shape shifting to receive approval, right, is a pattern that developed, you know, for me during childhood, because I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be valued, I wanted um, to be approved of, and so I learned early how to do that via other people's opinions and what would have them approve of me, right? So what I'm saying is I learned early how to look and see, okay, this is approved of over here, so let me do this over here, and this is approved of over here, so let me do this over here, right? And so, it's taken years as it would, of deconditioning, healing, acceptance, etc., and risk taking, to find my way home, right? And to find an alternative, actually, an alternative to creating and not seeking approval, an alternative to not creating for approval, an alternative to like a way to um, create and not feel that the creation or the results of the creation or the product of the creation is not, um, to have that not be attached to what are people going to think about it. Are they going to approve of it? Is it going to make sense to them? All the things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is, again, this was a survival pattern that I developed as a child, and many of us, if not, dare I want to say all of us, many of us have them. We've developed them, and there's no shame in that. Um, and I like kind of connecting this point to your other point about fear not having to like overtake us or be a bad thing. I think these patterns that we find ourselves kind of reproducing, or reenacting in our adult lives, um, they inform us, just as our fears inform us, just as our all of our feelings inform us, right?
For
They are
sure.
messengers. Both Nadir and I are trained in a tool called Feelings as Messengers, where um, the whole premise is that our feelings are um, not to be gotten rid of, not to be shamed, but to understand the messages and to heed them. And I think what you're saying about information is so good and it's so key, because for me, the only way I have been able to create from a different place, than the one I've been talking about, is, and not just like shun fear, right? To be like, oh, I'm not dealing with that. I don't want to. How do I just meditate it away or like whatever? And we can do that, right? We can have lots of really like healthy looking processes, or processes that are healthy for us in many ways, that we use in order to kind of go against ourselves and our innate nature, certainly our feelings, right? Because our belief system will point us in that direction. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you.
Um, but in order, the only way I found for me not to do that, because these things will continue to come up. These things are coming up because they want to be dealt with, right? These patterns are coming up because they want to be seen, understood, heard,
Mm-hmm.
released, like
Mm-hmm.
the same thing that we wanted from other people or tend to desire from other people. Our feelings come up and require that, they ask that of us, to see
Yeah.
them, to see ourselves, really,
Right.
truly, right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
honestly the invitation, right? Okay, so what am I fearing? Where does this come from? um, when did I feel this first,
Okay.
right? That's been a powerful one for me, a powerful one. Because we have our feelings, and then we also have the associations, um, that we've come to um, understand our feelings, I guess, in relation to, um, and the charge that those feelings hold, right? Either way, and through all of it,
Mm.
I think like they are invitations to dive into what is asking to be heard, seen, healed, transformed, accepted. And I
Yeah.
think if I would choose one of those words, I would say accepted, over all of them. I think so many of us struggle, right? We struggle to create. We struggle um, to to find a flow outside of fear, like because we are seeking the acceptance that we never really felt like we had, right? And I think our biggest work is to accept ourselves, just like you said, right? Giving
Mm.
yourself the permission to create, because nobody else is going to do that for you. No one else can do that for you.
Yeah.
Same on the level of acceptance, right? Deeply, deeply accepting all the parts of me, all of the parts um, that I show up as, that I show up with, right? Including the ones that maybe I kind of wish weren't here right now.
Yeah,
And
right.
that big both ands, right? Not but and, not but and. And how do I unconditionally accept this part of myself and therefore unconditionally accept my whole self, right? And
Mm,
that's the start of really taking back some power, right? Um, yeah, I think what you said also points to, for me, this idea of where we find our security.
okay.
Um, Many of us, I think, in our patterns, reach for security in the approval of others, right? And
Yeah.
again, that's just what we've done. It's just, what we know to do. It's our pattern. It's our survival pattern. And because it was our survival pattern, like, it's gonna speak hella loud because survival trumps everything, So like fighting, we try to fight this, it's like futile, right? It's not a fighting game. Um, yeah, and I think I lost my point, but yeah, okay, so where we get our security. um yeah, I think many of us uh do not feel safe when others are not pleased with us, right? When others do not approve of us, when authority figures do not approve of us. This has certainly been my path.
Yeah.
um
Similar too.
yeah, and so we have those muscles, to seek outside of ourselves, and that when everybody is satisfied, when everybody is approving, we do feel secure, right? And of
Hmm.
course, I mean, can you give more of your power away than that, right? Your basic security, you know what I'm saying, right? Of course, if we operate from that place, we cannot have a steady footing, a sure footing in who we are, and being dedicated and committed to bringing forth that which wants to come forth from us, right? So, um, I want to know, like, what shifted for you, kind of coming from that place to, when you were able to say, okay, I'm not going to give people that permission, or I'm going to give myself permission, right? As opposed to exporting it. Was there something that shifted for you that made you kind of like able to, maybe I want to say, release control or
Mm.
release the need for that outside of yourself?
Let me I'm really let me plug in my
No
laptop real
problem.
quick.
It's all good. We're live, people. This is imperfections are welcome.
Sorry, just gotta plug it in.
It's all good. I'm gonna see what's happening in the comments.
Eat.
A Narcissa says, I have learned to embrace the fear and move through life anyway. Yes, love that. That's something that we can do.
Can you repeat
What is
that?
Yeah, so Narcissa says, I have learned to embrace the fear and move through life anyway.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Adero says, I enjoy creating food for my family to enjoy and to be nourished by. I'm hella protective over it. I've just recently gotten to a space where I feel safe to share my food outside of my household without expecting negative criticism. Most of my food creations are healthy, so my expectation is that they won't enjoy it because it's healthy.
Mm,
I'm in a different headspace of wanting to share my food as love. Love that. Wow.
beautiful process.
Yes, yes. And I can relate, man. So, quick aside story. I grew up with a mama who was making food that was way different than everybody else's food. Like, hella different, hella healthy, hella all these spices and whatnot. And I used to be embarrassed as I don't know what, right? Like,
Yeah.
nobody knows what this is. Nobody eats lentils. Like, why do we have to, just really, really, in hindsight, trying to trying to control the outcome of, and essentially of, to have them be satisfied so that they could be satisfied with me, right?
Hmm.
um so I get that, like, absolutely. And of course, what would always happen? These people would come over and be like, wow, what is this? I've never had this before. This is amazing. Can you tell me how you made this? Can you make me some of those blah, blah, blahs next time I come over? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm glad my mom had none of these fears. I did, right? And it's, I mean, just a, you know, a brief funny story, but it reminds me of how people can be blessed and are blessed when we just do our part. Like, I just create this because I love to do it. You
Yeah.
know, I make this way because this is me. And finding home in that and stabilizing in that as opposed to in the response or in the outcome, you know? So I love
Yeah.
that, Daryl. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, Nadir.
That was such a great example, I think, for sure, because it really showed like you being able to have this perspective of like the embarrassment and things, and then
Mhm.
your mom just being like, forget
Unbothered.
it.
Like she ain't even thinking about this at all, you
Hmm.
know? Right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a powerful story to keep with you and to remind you
Hmm.
of the of this what we're talking about, this creating
Yeah.
beyond fear.
Yeah. Totally, man. Isn't that funny how little things come out like that? It also reminds me of like how if we're going for stability or for any kind of like sureness or security in other people's opinions, we will never get it because hello, there are like so many different ones. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? There's the child who's afraid that her friends will not like her anymore because they're forced to eat veggie burgers, you know, and there's someone who loves veggie burgers, you know, or who
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, it's impossible for us to try to find anything that we can count on in someone's opinions, in someone's response. Like the only home we have is within ourselves, right? The only sure thing we have is within us. And when we can commit to that and create from that, then the people who align with that are served, right?
Mm.
But that comes after. Like it's not, we be doing it in reverse. And we're literally gonna die. Like we're killing ourselves a little bit every day, you know, because we are refusing the things that want to come up and out because we are essentially demanding some kind of security as far as how they will be received or how the outcome will turn out before we create them and before we make them. And
Mhm.
that's not how the process of creation works. It's not. So in essence, we're kind of going against ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because
No, for real
have
though.
this one process and then we're trying to get that same outcome, the same fulfillment, the same alignment, the same self-actualization, the same development, the same freedom, the same joy
Yeah.
by basically going in the opposite direction, you know, and
Yeah.
we're securing our own bondage basically, right? um
That's a nice one.
Man, so Courtney says my notebook is full. This is transformative. That
Yes.
that makes me full of joy. I'm having so much fun.
My notebook full too, Courtney.
Look, mine too. Mine have been full since yesterday.
Exactly.
We had like a pre-convo. It was so deep. Okay. Yeah. So can you go back to this question if you don't mind about like when, if you are aware, when what happened when there was this shift within you where you were willing to kind of give up the, you were willing to give the permission to yourself and stop waiting for it from other people.
Mm. Okay. I think, like I was saying, like fear has never really, and I don't think it ever will, and I'm not looking for it to, left the building. You know, it hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part. It's an emotion. You know, like we've been saying,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that was the biggest change, just like how I relate to fear and how I have a conversation with that emotion.
Mm.
And I think one of the biggest changes was just belief, um,
Okay.
and
Yes.
searching and doing. One of the things I wrote down last night in our brief convo was you don't get nothing by just sitting, by just by just sitting, just by just doing nothing and just thinking about it, nothing
Ah,
nothing happens, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So that's one of the things that I changed. What I started doing differently was just going out and trying stuff without really being like, ooh, but what if, but you know.
Mm,
And I sometimes be like, I sometimes people call me like brave or just, courageous or just something like that,
yeah,
and liken me to that.
same.
How however, it's really just about me being like, I want to do this, and I might have
Mm,
specific reasons or specific intentions, or I might not. And if I don't, usually I just do it anyway because um where I was before, and allowing fear to kind of stifle that creativity or just that want, whatever I desired, um it was not a good place. Like you
mm,
said, it was killing me. It was something that I didn't really feel. I couldn't blossom. I couldn't live,
yeah.
truly how I wanted to. And it's not to say that I'm like living this gorgeous, beautiful life
Right,
every day.
right, right.
It's just that now what I experience is this trust and faith, and this peace in that trust and faith in what I choose to do, and what I'm going to do is going to be as good as I do it. Does that make sense? Like,
I think so.
as
Go
much
ahead.
as
Mm-hmm.
as much as I am putting towards it, and
Mm,
giving it life,
mm.
um the more it'll come about, the more it'll proliferate, the more it'll be the thing
Uh-huh.
that I am imagining, or the thing that I'm bringing forth. And
Mm,
so fear's voice
yes.
in this whole conversation has been, okay, let me look out for that. Let me be aware of this. Let me
Okay.
shore up this area. Let me make sure that I'm on, making sure I'm dotting my T's, and I mean
Mm.
dotting my I's and crossing my T's. And
Got
all
you.
those things, because even with the judgment piece of other people,
Mm-hmm.
I willingly bring in other people once I feel like I'm in a point where other people can come in
Yes.
the process,
Yes.
because it judge I think judgment in itself, like how we think of judgment or how we've been using the word in this conversation, kind of
Mm-hmm.
has this negative connotation of
Mm.
like, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this,
Right, right, right.
instead of this critique, like the judgment that
Mhm.
I'm looking for is this
Ah.
person that allows for growth, that is like,
Mhm. Yeah.
if we're sticking with the metaphor of the seed, that's coming by and being like, hey, let me water, you need to water
Yeah.
this a little
Oh,
bit
I
more,
love that. Yeah.
or like, they don't have enough sunshine or something, I don't know,
Yeah, I love
but
it.
just kind of like your kind of like advisors, or just people who help the growth,
Mm,
because
mm,
just like, even we say it takes a village to raise a child, um
mhm.
it takes a village to kind of really grow what you're trying to do. And
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's where I am in terms of like the judgment voice. And then
Mm,
when it comes to, let's think, when it comes to performance, or or being in school even, and having mentors and professors and things, those people, I look to them for the same type of thing, but it's more of a personal work. um
okay.
like I'm in school to really develop my capabilities, my skills, my strengths, and to eventually, once I graduate, to give all that strength and that skill and those things to the outside world, to be able to give back,
Mhm.
in that way. And so I think it creates this reciprocal relationship. And it also brings to mind that figure eight model in my head again, of we're receiving this experience, right?
Mm,
And a part of that experience is that fear, is that judgment from others. But
okay.
what we turn around and give back, um can be so much more. It could be something we transmute it into something that is beautiful, something that we want it to be.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
another way we can transmute it is when it comes in, we can ask for different ways for that stuff to come in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. One thing I want to point out that I kind of heard in that for me is like, um, creating a process for yourself within the creative process and how you're experiencing your emotions, um, kind of managing these pieces so that they work for you,
Yeah.
right? So, like, it sounds like your fear even is the way that you described it, kind of speaking to your own voice, or speaking to your interests, so to speak, right? Like,
Hmm.
in terms of your creating, your fear says, okay, well, maybe we want to look at this. Maybe look, you know what I'm saying? That
Hmm.
sounds like it's serving you as opposed to like it being attuned to outside voices,
Right.
or
Right.
outside
Exactly.
fears that take you outside of yourself. And then this piece, I love the piece about bringing people in at a certain time. Um, and I think for so many of us who have had the muscles of like seeking approval outside of ourselves, we have the tendency to do that too early,
Mm.
right? Where like
Mm.
we're not secure enough in our own thing yet. Right? Like maybe we're looking for approval, just approval of the idea,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And we know what we want is a resounding yes and excitement, but we put that power in someone else's hands, right?
Truly.
So what I'm hearing from you is like in that beginning stage, really grounding in the legitimacy and the richness of what it is that you want to birth and create and where that's coming from. And then at the stage where you've already given it life and you're already sure about your place in it, then enlisting the waterers and the cultivators and the growers, right? Which also sounds very intentional as far as who it is you're inviting in and who it is you're not really attuned to, you know?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that's masterful. I think that's beautiful and amazing. I'm like super happy. I'm happy specifically, in terms of your journey because of what I've seen you be able to create. So I'm like overjoyed that the way that you have been able to work your process allows your work to come out in the world. I mean, that's beautiful. Like,
Thank you,
because
Ife.
yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I feel blessed to be able to experience your work and you being you and you exploring you and you just being in the process of the creation with yourself, right? I mean, that's such a gift to everyone, both for the sake of resonating with the work or enjoying the work, and also witnessing you as a model
Mm.
of doing this, of living this, of jumping out there. So I want
Ashe.
to say, man, I'm proud of you. I'm just like super happy. I'm glad we're on this journey together. I couldn't be
Yes.
here. Hey,
Gang gang.
gang, 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 gang. As I'm thinking about bringing the conversation to a close, um, is there anything that you feel has gone unsaid? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to pose to the folks, to our
Yeah.
community here? Just yeah, anything you want to sprinkle on top.
I did want to share some quotes
Okay.
from my Angelo,
Mm.
and I think this brings up a piece that I really want to talk about too, was just the importance in my journey of looking at past people, or I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
say past people, but
Past
looking at
creators.
ancestors. Yeah, past
Okay.
creators,
Uh-huh.
looking at
Or
ancestors and
other creators.
studying. Yeah, exactly. Studying other people's work and
Mm-hmm.
studying their life stories,
Yeah. Oof.
because that has given me such a powerful perspective and ability to change how I think. And specifically Maya Angelou, because she's someone that's very dear to my mom, and
Mm.
and through my mom I was exposed to Maya Angelou and just the words that she had to say,
Okay.
and her character, her energy. And Maya Angelou is one of those people where, in a few people I've seen on camera, and I've never been anywhere close to meeting them,
Mm-hmm.
and I can feel their energy. I
Mm-hmm.
can feel them, And
Yes. Yes. Come on with it.
and she also says a lot that she loved people. And I actually felt loved by her, but for some
Mm,
reason,
that's amazing. Yeah.
I don't
I
know what
get
it
you.
is, but she got some strong spiritual
She
energy.
got that. Yeah, it's transmutating.
Exactly. And if
Yeah,
you study her life story, she did go through some very rough times.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And she lived, like, I think, to 98, and was
Mm,
able to share so much with the world.
yeah.
She was a very strong creator. And so yeah, that's why I kind of want to bring her word into this
Yeah,
space, and just
please.
her, what she has to say.
Mm,
But I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And she lived by that for sure.
mm-hmm.
And I think with this conversation on creating beyond fear, that gets back to everything we've been saying, especially about intention, and
Yes,
um
intention.
about how that that fear and that judgment voice, all those things, how we have to be very intentional about where those things fall in the creative process, and
Mm-hmm.
then also how we process those things. And because, like she said, you could have done, like, I could have win like so many prizes, I could do so many shows or whatever,
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
what really people are going to be
What
talking about,
sticks?
yeah, what sticks is how I made them feel, their experience with my energy, with
Mm-hmm.
how I did things, how I approached life, and what that brought up in them. And I think that's what even creation is about, and what we have to keep in
Yes.
our heads, at least what
Yes.
I keep in mind,
Mm-hmm.
is that yes, I'm creating for this reason, these and that reasons, and all these things. And that's what I want to focus on. That's what I want to, like, make sure is
Yeah.
heard and
Right.
known, is
Right.
because I'm not just creating and hoping y'all like it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
creating because I have very specific intentions, and I have
Yes.
very specific things that I want to share with the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That
And
feeling. Go ahead.
no, do you? I was gonna.
You got another one?
I do, but I thought you were gonna say something else.
No, I was just gonna say, for me, that took me to this place of like, when we talk about people remembering how we made them feel,
Mhm.
um, and also when I hear you talk about how you feel Maya Angelou, and
Mhm.
how it sounds like she makes you feel felt or seen, right?
Yeah.
Um, for me, that's like channeling spiritual energy, like that's for me that kind of, because when we talk about feeling, like creating a feeling or creating something that makes someone feel something.
Mhm.
I mean, that is an exchange, and it's for me it's like an alive thing, right? It's alive. And for me, if we bring something into fruition, into being, that is alive, like we channeling, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know, we could take that so many different places, but for me, the reason I also bring that up is because I know when I connect, when I create from my center, when I create from who I am, um, and when my stuff has the most impact and the biggest impact and the impact that's aligned with me and my path, I feel absolutely utterly connected to creation, to all that is, to
Yes.
whatever it is that I would be channeling, right?
Hmm.
To me, like that's the richness, that is creating, that is creation, that's what we're here for, to create and connect, to be a creation, you know what I'm saying? And
Oof.
that is timeless, like exactly what you're saying, like you feel her, you ain't never met her, you just watching her on the screen or whatever, and you feel her and she makes you feel felt. I mean, that's love. That's
That is.
emotion. That's spirit. So yeah, I just that's what came to me.
I
But
say
go
Ife.
ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and the second one is, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you.
Mm-hmm. Woo!
And I think when she mentions like this bearing an untold story, I think that's where fear kind of really like said, "Hey, I'm gonna get you." You know what?
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
Yeah,
because
I do. I get you.
because like you just, well, my experience is just like out here fearing a whole lot of things, and
Mm.
then at the end of the day, when I'm about to go to sleep, I'm thinking about what I want to do and like how it's still there and it's not
Mm-hmm.
going away anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
And that then that fear voice just comes in. It's just like, okay, like then what you doing? Like get up, get to work, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that you always bring spirit back into the conversation,
Mm.
because on another level, it is our ancestors, it is the universe being like,
Mm.
look,
Look,
you got to do this. Like you're not just
you
here.
gotta do this. You were born to do this. This is who you are.
Mhm.
And if you don't be who you are, you will die. Right? I mean, and that's how maybe that sounds extreme said
It
like that,
does.
but when I had when I was saying that, I had this visual of, again, back to this plant example, this flower example, right? Like the flower comes to be here as a flower. The plant comes to be here as a plant. This specific plant, it has specific instructions now,
Yep.
specific instructions and a specific destiny. It literally cannot exist outside of that, right?
Mm.
And I mean, imagine like, I don't know, one plant trying to be another plant. Like it can recreate itself. I guess
Yeah.
it could birth something new from itself, but it's got to be itself. There's no other option for it to live, for it to exist, than for it to be as it came to be.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You feel?
I
So
do.
we are the same. And that's what I meant when I said you will die, right? It sounds like, I don't know, Chucky or something. I'm not trying to be extreme. Sorry, guys. But what I mean is, we all know this thing of dying a little bit inside every day, right? When we don't release that which wants to be released from us. I personally have experienced physical sickness, um, right? Physical ailments from not creating, from having an idea, recognize I got an idea that stirred my soul and wanted to be born, and that I didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't, create it. I didn't let it through. And as you're saying, that happens when we, um, essentially, the fear is louder, right? The fear is louder than the trust in the process, in what can come, and what is there for us, meant for us, inevitable for us.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that quote. I think it's perfect for ending our conversation. Essentially all of us are here trying to, what is it? The story is, the agony is about having a story inside.
Yes. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you.
Hmm. All of us have stories. We have stories to tell. We have stories to live. We have stories to experience, right? And it's literally what we came here to do. Um,
Mhm.
and so, and I think everyone, I think the folks who are called to such a conversation, the folks who find themselves on such a journey, seeking, trying to understand, heal, all of that, they know this, they understand this, right? Both the story and the thing that wants to be birthed, and the need inside of them, and that the fear story, right? um we know the agony, and we're looking for freedom.
Ashe.
And you know that's what we're here for, and we're gonna find it. We're gonna find it this week, okay? I don't know, but we're gonna get some things moving. We're gonna get some things started.
For
So,
sure.
wow. I want to thank everyone who joined us.
Yes, thank you everybody.
Man, I just want to acknowledge a few people. My friend Chelsea Wallace is here. She's going to be with us on Thursday. My god sister Sadio is here.
Mhm.
Hey sis, Alafia. My Ajubona, one of my elders in the tradition. EAD is here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Y'all, this is, I don't know about y'all, but what they be saying about the edges, I don't know. I ain't got none. I ain't got none. We went there today. We went there, okay? As
We
my
did
auntie would
that.
say, we went there. Um, this is a conversation that, me myself, I'll be going back to listen to, maybe take some notes to just resonate on. I mean, spirit flowed today, man. I'm so grateful. Um, And I'm grateful to have had you, Nadir. I mean, you are such a powerhouse. Like,
Oh, thank you.
really, like you are brilliant. You're a light. You know, you're soft, and I mean that as a compliment. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, right. Like in the sense that you come softly and powerfully. You know, and I think that that touches people. I know it touches me, and it serves me so. And I'm so excited. I'm excited to just have had a space where you know your voice, a platform for your voice to just flow out naturally, for us to have this genuine conversation,
Uh-huh.
for us to trust what was gonna happen and come out and allow it to, you know,
Yes,
just
yes.
exercising that, standing
Hmm.
on that we these ways of living that we find ourselves in now, right? That cultivate our freedom. So wow, thank you so much everyone for being with us. This this live will stay on my Facebook page. We're also going to upload them to YouTube.
Eh.
Um, please stick with us for the rest of the week. Tomorrow we have cultivating personal sovereignty with my good friend, my good sister Leanne Chisholm Morissette.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Woo! We're gonna go there again. We're gonna have a lot of going there, okay?
Hmm.
And if you would like to follow more closely on the conversation, you can sign up for emails from me at tiny.cc/being ourselves. You can get reminders in your email from me, as well as questions, you know, reflection questions and such like that.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
the
yes, what's
hashtag,
up?
the
Oh,
prompt,
the
the hashtag prompt.
hashtag. Ooh,
Hmm.
see, thank you, bro. If you should share. So our question for today that we shared a little bit earlier. And yeah, it is a little deep. It's a little vulnerable. Where do you feel restricted or bound by the judgment of others or the fear of judgment of others? Where or when? It's a lot of slashes, but if you choose to share, absolutely feel free to like just keep it in your journal if you want or keep it in your mind, you know. And if you choose to share, we would love to follow your reflections and any other reflections with the hashtag on being ourselves. Okay, we're gonna keep the conversation going. Nadia, any last words?
I just want to say thank you to you, Ife. This is such a great platform, and like you said, I love the way that we put it together. Just conversations and letting it all flow. And thank you, Spirit, and thank you to everybody that attended. All your great
Yes.
comments. And
Hashtag.
Ife, I really hope, not really hope, but I really do know that this is going to be very successful in your own definition of success. And it already is. And I also really appreciate that you're living what you're talking about and that you're also inviting um, the opportunity for people to see that there's other ways of living. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, bro. Love you. Love y'all. See y'all tomorrow.
Peace.